Welcome to Driving to the Top Productions as we do our USFL recap of the regular season. Man, this is going fast. It's almost over, but I have some very familiar faces, but still special guests. I'll bring in my very first guy, aka Chris Berman Jr., Jamie Malloy. How you doing, man?
Hey, Evan Brogdon, the Cleveland Browns fan, or as I say, the Cleveland Frowns fan. How you doing, man?
Oh, don't take shot the tragic Bills guy. Don't do that. But I'm doing good, man. How was your weekend?
My weekend was great. I watched more USFL. We're going to be talking about the tragic Maulers. It was they did what the typical Maulers do. They get out to a great league, and then they find a way to lose it at the end with Chris Bua. But we're going to talk about that more and as I do my Chris Berman impression again with the game highlights. But other than that, I think it was a really great week 8, and I cannot believe we're already into week 9. So yeah, let's talk about week 8 this week.
Absolutely. And for me this weekend, I actually I went to a Monster Jam on Saturday, so cheap tickets, just decided to get out the house, had a little fun there. But as we
That's
bring in our new
I used to love Monster Jam. I used to go it's like 10 years ago I went when it was at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse. Where did you go for Cleveland? Was it at Cleveland Brown Stadium?
yeah, it was pretty fun. Never was really a fan of the monster trucks. I only really knew Gravedigger because he had the coolest Hot Wheels monster truck, and then I got his RC truck. So it was pretty cool to see his son driving Gravedigger. But as I bring in my next guest, the Stallions fan, the free Scooby Wright petition starter, the Twitter mogul, Luke Miller of PFN. How we doing, Luke?
Doing great. How about you guys?
I'm doing good, man.
I'm great, Luke.
Good to be here again.
It's great to have you. How was your weekend?
It was good, I mean, the biggest thing was the Stallions pulled out the victory last home game of the regular season for the Stallions. So there was a great crowd, great environment. It was a great game. So that was super fun, and got to have some downtime after that. So no complaints from me.
Fair enough. And it's truly my pleasure to bring in the last guy here. Getting used to what reality is as a Pittsburgh fan with, the Pirates struggling, the Steelers going to be squealing soon. The Penguins ain't going to do that much more. And sadly enough, as we root for the Maulers because they're our resident team here at Driving to the Top Productions, I bring in Sports Talking It to talk about his sad sports weekend. How was it?
Well, the Pirates are in first place, so I'm gonna ride that wave for a minute.
Yeah, it'll last until about the All-Star break.
All right, well, let me enjoy it for like 10 minutes. All right.
We started 10 minutes ago, so we just forgot to press go live.
I'm still enjoying the first place rise. Guardians aren't doing. Actually, they won last or Sunday, so hopefully we can ride that ship out. I'm doing okay. We'd doing a lot better if the Maulers would have won this weekend, but it is what it is sometimes.
Yeah, you can't be winners forever.
I don't know if this team's ever been a winner in their history.
Yeah, well, they're showing you guys what it's going to be like for the the rest of the time. Now just like the Steelers in 33 all the way up to 70s. They sucked. Yep, man, you're about to go through the next one of that. So,
oh my God,
it's going to be fun to finally experience kicking your butt more than once a year. So, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll end this little personal bickering war that we have here.
Should we talk about what we talked about backstage real quick?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We could definitely do that.
Get that out there on live TV.
Myself and Sports Talking It here. As you guys may know, I am a Cleveland diehard. I am a Browns fan, a Guardians fan, and a Cavaliers fan. I made the bet that whoever loses the series between the Browns and the Steelers, and if they scratch, if they, 1-1, whoever finishes below the other in the division has to wear the opposing team's jersey for 3 episodes. So, matter of fact, you know what? I might even do this just to be nice to you. I will do a Twitter poll to see what jersey you have to wear, and you can do one for the jersey I have to wear, so that we can keep our fans
Can
and
we
every.
do? Can we do both of them in the same one? Like, you put the original comment and then run a second poll underneath.
Well, it really wouldn't matter until the season starts. But just to build some hype, we can keep talking about it. We'll have it put out on other shows that
I
we're
wonder if
doing.
the Raven boys are going to want to get in on this too.
They should be, and hopefully we can get this Table Talk episode 2 out real soon. Working on some legal rights when it comes to that. But we're gonna go ahead and get started with the first game of the week, which was the Houston Gamblers and Pittsburgh Maulers. We alluded to it as we were doing our introductions that the Maulers got out to a very, very interesting start. A hot start, you might say. Looked like they came out with a purpose, knowing that they were holding their own destiny as far as the playoffs go, only to crumble in the second half and really at the end of the third quarter going into the fourth. You really started to see the struggles of the season when it came to the Pittsburgh Maulers. So, sports talking it. Can you spare the tears and talk about the game for us?
Mark Thompson, unstoppable. 2 touchdowns. He had 98 yards total. This offense can't score touchdowns. And when you can't score touchdowns and you're relying on your kicker, sometimes he's going to miss. I mean, what do we got? Luke, how wide are them uprights? 10 feet?
I think standard NFL dimensions, yeah.
So, I mean, he went 4 for 5 and he missed the game-winning field goal. But the Chisholm, the toe tap touchdown pass, that was very nicely executed in the corner of the end zone. I know that Mr. Berman below me is looking very frustrated right now because I know he wanted to do this game, and I can't believe you gave this to me.
I had to just for the little tease, but you can definitely pass it off to him right now. You've only, you didn't.
Go
really
ahead,
break
Jamie.
it down.
Take it. I know you've been wanting to do this one. You're looking at your notes and everything.
I apologize, Chris Berman Jr. Go ahead. The
It's
floor
all
is
right,
yours.
Evan. It's all right, Evan, and sports talking it, Anna. But anyway, yeah. So we're gonna get right into this game. It's another game where we start off in a Saturday afternoon, June 3rd. You got 2 teams that are kind of in opposite directions. One, you got the Houston Gamblers, who are 4-3, who are all about speed everywhere. You got a quarterback Keji Barr, who I call Lamar Jackson 2.0. He is very quick on his feet and can also pass the ball in the shotgun right down the field. At Pittsburgh, you got Troy Williams, who is a dual threat quarterback who's very good at running the read option. And in a game where it looked like Pittsburgh was going to dominate, well, let me tell you something. Nobody has a field goal kicker with the name Blewett and blows a lot of leads and loses a lot of close games in the USFL like the Pittsburgh Maulers. So anyway, we're going to get right into this game. In the first quarter, Troy Williams rushes it into the score for a touchdown. The Pittsburgh Maulers lead 7-0. It's the end of the first quarter. We go into the second quarter. Chris Blewett kicks a 22-yard field goal for his first of many field goals of the day. Pittsburgh leads 10-0. So we go to the second quarter with Pittsburgh up, and Blewett kicks another one, 54-yard field goal. It's good. It's good. Pittsburgh leads 13-0. Then we go to the end of the second quarter. Houston with the drive. Mark Thompson barrels in, 28-yard touchdown. But the extra point is no good. And Pittsburgh has a 13-6 Houston lead, much like the Bills did in Super Bowl 28. But that is a bad omen for both teams. As we go into the third quarter, Pittsburgh is held to another field goal, and Blewett makes the kick. Pittsburgh leads 16-6. We go to the fourth quarter. Houston capitalizes on a Kenji Bahar touchdown pass to Keegan. And the extra point is good. And the lead is cut down to 3. Then the Maulers drive into the fourth quarter, and they're held to, guess what? Another Blewett field goal. The kick is good. Pittsburgh's only up by 6. And then the man of the hour for Houston, Big Mark Thompson, barrels his way in the end zone for the touchdown. 20-19. Houston. Come here, Houston. Houston takes the lead 20-19. Pittsburgh is on their final drive. Troy Williams is on the march. He gets a first down, but then Chris Blewett, he's going to make another field goal. But he doesn't make it this time. It's 41 yards. No good. And Houston. It's not Houston we have a problem. It's Pittsburgh we have a problem. They lose again. They lose their third straight in a row as the Gamblers find a way to win again, 20-19. And Pittsburgh has lost another close game. The Gamblers win 20-19. Houston goes to 5-3 on the year, while the Maulers fall to 2-6 on the year.
So the big question that I have here for you, Luke, is something that I'm going to allude to. I'm kind of foreshadowing here for the Stallions game that we're going to talk about next. Red zone possessions. Here in this game, the Maulers had 3 red zone attempts, and they only got 1 touchdown in the red zone. Can you speak to the struggles that you saw in this game?
For the Maulers specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been the same struggles they've had most of the year. They've kicked so many doggone field goals because they just can't seem to finish drives and get the ball in the end zone. I've been surprised. I really anticipated that Pittsburgh would be a top rushing team this year, bringing back Madre London, Garrett Groshek, who's a great kind of power running back. We didn't know necessarily going into the year the quarterback situation, but Troy Williams now kind of the guy. He's very mobile. They've got some good receivers who can move too, jet sweeps and things like that. So I think the Maulers rushing game has, left a lot to be desired compared to what maybe we thought it would be or could be. And, their passing game has never been their strength. And we've talked about it last week. They've got some great receivers. They got some great weapons, but they just seem to struggle to put guys in a position to capitalize, in drives and kind of key moments in games. And that continued this week. And that's been their Achilles heel. And in a league like this where teams are, kind of nipping each other's heels and there's a really high level of parity, you can't afford to not take advantage of those kinds of opportunities when you get down in the red zone and you have the opportunity to score points. We can kind of, give Blewett a hard time and, the joke kind of writes itself with his name. But at the same time, you're asking a lot out of the man. He's basically your offense. You can't get the ball in the end zone. So he has to kick a field goal every time you get into the opposing team's territory. And, no kicker's perfect. No player's perfect. So, the Maulers just, it's kind of the same old song, this week, like previous weeks.
Absolutely. the sad part about this is it started to look like they were figuring it out, and then it kind of just crumbled again and again and again. And I kind of want to pass this one to Jamie on the fact that Williams got his first start since college and his first start as a professional. How did you think the new quarterback for the Maulers played this past weekend?
One thing I want to say, Evan, is that wasn't his first start since college. He's been their starter actually uh, pretty much since week 3, and he's been taking over the reins ever since James Morgan. He's done a consistent job. I mean, he's managed the game and done what he's needed to do, but he's had he's just he's had a couple turnovers and a couple mistakes that have cost the team wins. But I think he's managed the offense with what he's done, what the coaches have asked him to do, run jet sweeps and options in the running game. But he doesn't have that great of an arm, and they're kind of limited to what they can do offensively. But it works. They just need to execute in the red zone better with score more touchdowns, kick less field goals.
Yeah,
Like what
so
everybody else is saying here.
absolutely. So then, with that being said, how does a team fix consistency when they still have a chance to control their own destiny with these last 2 weeks?
I think it starts with taking care of your 12 o'clock game this week against Michigan, because luckily Michigan, we're going to talk about later that they lost their game in a close game. You take care of Michigan this week, you technically own the tiebreaker over them, because you swept means you would sweep them for beating them earlier. So, and then if New Jersey loses, you're in second place in the North, behind Philly by a tiebreaker. So you would technically be in the second playoff in the North Division. And then next week you beat New Jersey. Guess what? You would be in the North Division playoff at 4-6, just like a team that we knew in the XFL by the name of the Arlington Renegades, who got in at 4-6. And then who knows? Maybe the book writes itself and you make a run like Arlington did, but you got to take care of Michigan this week first.
Absolutely. And I'll pass this on to Sports Talking It before we move to the next game, and I'll hand that over to Luke. But do you think that's something possible for this team to do this coming weekend at 12 o'clock?
I hope so. I mean, I hope we're talking about them making, at least keeping week 10 for at least me and Jamie interested, when your team's into it, it's always a little more interesting to talk about the game than it is to say, it's week 10, we're out of the playoffs, or, for me and Jamie's sake and all the Mauler fans out there, I'm hoping we are. But we definitely, I guess we control our own destiny. But doesn't New Jersey? Well, New Jersey has the same record as us, so 2-6. So it really doesn't matter. It really matters what I guess the Maulers really do control their own destiny here.
Yeah, they do.
I do want to say Billy Gaither finally had a good game receiving, 6 for 70 yards. Tarpley had 6 tackles, 5 solo tackles.
Did the two of you, being Luke and Jamie, did you guys have any standout players for this game before we go to the next?
Everybody's kind of already mentioned it, but I mean, it's just Mark Thompson, man. Like, without him, I don't know where the Gamblers would be, because the dude he puts the team on his back. And I think the MVP race, is really kind of narrowing to him and the Stallions quarterback Alex Magoo, because they're both guys who have just done so much for their teams week after week after week. and that was true for the for the gamblers again. So that's not profound analysis. I mean, we all kind of saw that, but it's worth giving the guy the respect that he continues to deserve.
Absolutely, Jamie.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. My MVPs for this game are obviously Thompson because, like I said, you're just not going to find a running back in either the NFL or uh, the USFL who's 6'4", 230 pounds, and is a guy who can run it in for 5 yards in a under center formation, or to catch it out of the backfield in a spread it out offense, and has the power and the the run cut ability, but he also has like speed and is very agile for to be able to like make people miss. He's got incredible spin moves for a guy that big too, and he's just a big athletic bell cow back that can do it all for a guy his
Ab-
size. And for the Maulers, I'm going to definitely say Bailey Gaither had his best game of the year too. He
uh,
really showed up against Houston, so that's a good sign um, for if they do make the playoffs and they take care of business against Michigan this week and beyond the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely. So we jump to what for me was the game of the week. Absolutely, might even be the game of the year, in my opinion. We have the 4-4 Philadelphia Stars and the 6-2 Birmingham Stallions. Luke, break it down for us, man.
Evan, how could you leave it? How could you leave us out real quick? The rematch of the USFL championship last year.
Can I give him an alley oop?
No,
Yeah. I'll
obviously
take
I
the
that's
gave
alley.
you
blocked it
one.
now.
Yeah, I'll take the alley oop. So yes, Stallions. They
I
take
love
on the
it.
Stars in a rematch of last year's USFL championship, which was, if you happen to maybe just start following the league and didn't follow the league last year, go back and watch the highlights from last year's championship game. One of the honestly, and I don't, no exaggeration. I think one of my favorite football games I've witnessed, just because it was a back and forth affair, and especially if you've been following the teams and some of the storylines, the way the game played out, it was just crazy. But expected this one to be another close, crazy game, and we were not disappointed. Like Evan said, one of the best games probably of the season so far. The Stars came out hot, and their offense was clicking. The Case Cookus to Corey Coleman connection was on fire. Had some big passes, over 50-yard completions. Got out to a lead, 7-0. But the Stallions, their offense was clicking too, and Magoo just did what he's done all year and just created plays, bought time in the pocket, found open guys, and started off early, 7-7. The Stallions got the ball with a chance to take the lead, but Magoo kind of had a bobbled exchange with the running back, tried to roll out of the pocket, lost control of the ball, fumble. Stars get the ball, make the Stallions pay, go up 14-7, and that was sort of the where we were at half. And so going into the second half, the Stallions got the ball to open it up and looked like they'd have an opportunity to score, but they ended up driving down the field, fumbling again. And at that point, I kind of thought the Stallions were in trouble just because two of the best teams in the league, you've got the best team in the North right now, the best team in the South. It's hard to win a game when you turn the ball over multiple times and you're not forcing turnovers yourself. But to the Stallions' credit, their defense, really kind of bowed up in the face of some adversity. And the second half, the Stars continued to lead throughout the third quarter. And it wasn't actually until the fourth quarter the Stallions finally got the lead back. So Magoo found Sternberger, one of his favorite targets, tight end, put him up by 3 points to go, kind of late in the third, about 3 minutes left in the third. But it only took the Stars a couple plays, 3 plays, I think, to score. and which was a good and bad thing for the Stars because they scored quick and were able to get the lead back, go up by 4, require the Stallions to drive down and score a touchdown. But bad news for them was they left too much time on the clock for Alex Magoo. So Magoo kind of put together a masterclass last-minute game-winning drive. Some people were kind of saying this might have been his sort of MVP moment. I mean, he's had some really great moments throughout the year, but his team, down by 4 with 3 minutes to go against the top team in the North, championship rematch. I mean, it was kind of, again, a storybook kind of thing. Gets the ball, drives the team down the field. They face a 4th and 8. He finds Sternberger again, get down inside the red zone. Michael Petway, huge kind of receiver tight end hybrid. Just let him do his thing outside on the edge, one-on-one, makes a touchdown catch, and kind of crowd goes nuts. So another week where, it came down to the last play. Last week, the Stallions played the Breakers, and they had to intercept a Hail Mary on the last play of the game to win. This week, Cook us threw a Hail Mary on the last play of the game. Stallions had to intercept it again to win. But it was just that kind of affair back and forth. Awesome game. I know the Stars, definitely players and probably fans too, were probably frustrated because it definitely felt like a very winnable game for them. They were really in position to come out with a win, which would have been huge for them. But the Stallions, they're a really good team, and I think that they've got a lot of veteran leadership back from last year's championship winning team. They obviously have an incredible coach who has really built something special in Birmingham and has just a fantastic team culture. And with all that, they find ways to win close games. And it's kind of the opposite of the Maulers. The Maulers, they've been in most of the games that they've lost, but going back to last year, they've won 3 games so far. I think they're 3-15 at this point. If you go back to last season, whereas the Stallions, they've been in a lot of close games too, but they've found ways to win those games. And going back to last year, the Stallions, I think now are 17-3 in 2 years. So they've got something special, I think, going on in Birmingham because the South is so tight. The crazy thing is they haven't even, they're 6-2, but they still might not make the playoffs. They've got to win one of the next 2 weeks to get in, but they have to feel good about where they're sitting, as competitive as the USFL has been this season, I think.
That's a great analysis. Does anybody want to jump in and have anything to add?
I do.
You
I
have
think.
a lot of
Go ahead, Adam.
Luke. It just seems like all your receivers are just huge. Like
Yeah,
just
we've got
bulky.
they've got some dogs for sure. I mean, the Stallions tight end room is just loaded because you've got Jay Sternberger, who played at Texas A&M, played with the Packers. I think he was a 3rd-round draft pick, 2nd or 3rd round, and he's been an animal this year. He's leading the league in receiving touchdowns. His backup is Thaddeus Moss, who played at LSU, won a national championship, had 2 touchdowns in that game. Son of the arguably best receiver of all time, Randy Moss. Like, he ain't no slouch, and he doesn't really see the field a lot. And then your 3rd tight end is LaMichael Petway, who played at Arkansas. So 3 SEC guys. And Petway is kind of he's probably the most, again, sort of, receiver tight end kind of hybrid out of the 3 of them. And so the Stallions have been doing a lot more with him recently, lining him up out wide, letting him match up with smaller corners. And he's just a tough guy for a 5'11", 185 DB to try and cover a guy with that kind of body. And so throw on top of that Deion Kane, who's I think 6'2", 200-pound receiver kind of guy, and some of the other weapons they've got. And Magoo obviously has been a great quarterback, but a big part of that is the weapons he's got around him. I mean, he couldn't do it all by himself. So they definitely have some guys that create some tough matchups for defenses for sure.
Sounds like a created team in college football with all those big receivers. But go ahead, Sports Talking It.
Has Randy been to a game? Have you seen him?
He has, yeah. He was there, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago. He was sitting up in the bleachers with his bucket hat on, taking it in. I think it was when we played. I want to say it was when we played Houston, but I could be wrong about that.
Number 80, is that Petway? He's huge.
Yeah, he's massive. And he was actually with the Panthers last year and had some great plays and catches with them. And I can't remember exactly. I think maybe he. I don't remember, so I shouldn't say. But for some reason, he left the Panthers. Either got released or did like a temporary thing in the NFL, and they got cut or whatever it was. And he was a free agent that the Panthers didn't pick him back up, and the Stallions kind of slid in there and got him while he was on the market, which I thought was a huge pickup for us. And the first couple of weeks he was with the team, he wasn't out there a lot, but the last couple of weeks he's become more and more of kind of a featured guy. And like I said, with his size, he creates huge mismatches when they put him out there on the island against a small DB.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, all I gotta say is for those who don't think Alex Magoo deserves an NFL camp invite, or more college coaches should give him a training camp invite, I think that game-winning drive just sealed more camp invites. That moment just sealed more camp invites for him. That game-winning drive proved it right there.
I know a team that can use him right now.
Cleveland Browns.
No, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Jeez.
At least he can hold the football correctly, and doesn't need gloves with stickum on it to use it.
I would be just. I'm not an NFL scout. I'm not an NFL GM, so I don't know all the things they look for, how it exactly works. But I would be blown away if the guy didn't get some kind of opportunity, just the way that he's played. And it's not like he just came out of nowhere. He was a 7th round draft pick. He was with some NFL teams for some time, kind of a bottom of the roster type guy. So he's not a completely unknown entity. But the way he's played this year, he's consistently week in and week out thrown the ball well and accurately, scored lots of points, made good decisions, not turned the ball over. It's not just like he's doing crazy things and then the next series he throws a stupid pick. You know what I mean? It's like he's been accurate, he's made good decisions, he's been careful with the football, he's a great leader for the team, he's been clutch, like Jamie just talked about, put him in these kind of pressure cooker moments and he's delivered. So I don't know what more you would want the guy to do if you were an NFL GM before you say, like, hey, let's bring this guy in and like give him a look, because he's playing against these other guys that are professional football players, and he's kind of doing everything I think you would want to see out of a guy.
Fair enough. Does anybody have a player of the game for this second matchup of the first day of the weekend?
Without a doubt, Magoo.
Yeah, that's my guy too. Sports
Yeah.
Talking It, you all right over there?
Yeah, Damian Davis doesn't get any nomination here with 4 catches for 120 and a touch.
Yeah, I was going to mention him.
He did a lot of damage.
Yeah, I think it's hard to pick one, but I almost kind of want to say the MVP was the entire Stallions receiving core, just because if you go back and watch the game, Davis was huge. 4 catches, 120 yards, a touchdown early in the game. He had a 71-yard catch and run late in the game, or in the third quarter, I think. So he had a huge game. Sternberger had a huge game too. Sternberger only had 3 catches, but if you go back and watch, all 3 of those catches were massive. One was a touchdown. One was a 4th and 8 conversion on the game-winning drive that if he didn't catch that, they lose. And the third was a 30 or 40-yard catch down the sideline on a wheel route that set them up for a score. So, Sternberger only had 3 catches, but they were all huge catches, big gains. And then you throw Petway in there, who didn't have a lot of catches or yards. I think he ended up with like 3 catches, but had the game-winning touchdown and a couple other, clutch catches as well. So it's like, it's hard for me to pick one, but I think the whole Stallions receiving core, obviously in addition to Magoo, Magoo had 333 yards and 3 touchdowns and no picks, which I think was the second most passing yards in a USFL game since the league started up last year. So obviously Magoo, again, is kind of the obvious answer, but I think the Stallions' whole receiving core for sure deserves some credit, which, it's the whole offense too. You know, I mean, you got to give some credit to the offensive line. I mean, they, Magoo couldn't have done what he had done if he was on his back all game. So Magoo is playing out of his mind, but it takes a team, and he's got some great pieces around him, and that's part of his success. And he'd be the first to tell you that.
On that final interception, why didn't they throw a flag?
When Cook has crossed the line.
So as long as your foot's behind the line in this league, it works.
Is that the flag you're referring to?
The one whenever Cook is through the interception at the end of the game, right?
Yeah. The penalty you're referring to is him crossing the line, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't called.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't call it. I don't know if it was a situation where it was kind of a close judgment call, and it was kind of like, let's see what happens on the play, and then if we have to go back and review it. I don't even know if you can review something like that on a penalty. In the USFL, you might be able to, but
in the NFL, you can review that. And what the rule is that at least one body part by NFL standards is that one body part has to be behind the line as the quarterback makes that throw. So most times we see this a lot on.
And Cook's foot was behind the line whenever that ball was launched.
And so, and again, that is a judgment call. I don't know if they can review it in the USFL, but as far as common knowledge of how football works, that's always been the rule when it comes to a quarterback, because you see quarterbacks run to the line all the time, stepping up in the pocket, running from somebody as they escape, and they're right at that line, and you wonder why they didn't throw it. There's a body part behind. So I'm assuming that's why they didn't throw it.
And I think, too, I think refs are hesitant to throw a flag on a Hail Mary unless it's just like completely egregious, because, it's the last play of the game. You kind of want to, I feel like, let it play out and see what happens. But we had a similar situation with Magoo a couple weeks ago where he kind of like ran up to the line of scrimmage and kind of like danced along the line and then threw the ball. And I remember Mike Pereira saying something on the lines of what you're saying, Evan, of like, it's okay if like half his body's across the line as long as the ball's behind the line when it's released, or something, something along those lines, or part of his body or whatever. So I think with that play, it looked like he was over the line to me, but I think it was probably one of those situations where it's kind of like, this is kind of a judgment call. Like, let's let it play out. And then if we have to go back and take a look at it or whatever, maybe they could have, but I think, obviously, it was one of those things. It didn't end up affecting the game, but it definitely looks like he's across the line if you go back and watch it, at least the angle of the camera.
So
is Coleman that good?
No.
Yeah, let's hear what the Browns fan thinks.
No. Does it look like he's put in work since the last time we seen him? Absolutely. It looks like his releases are good.
4 for 107 and a touch.
Hey, when you're the fastest dude out there and you're playing with guys that, I'm sorry to say this, aren't in the league and are not as fast as you, sometimes these things happen. Yes, he's come in and produced. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's a scrub in USFL standards, but
you think he gets an camp invite?
I think he will, but I think it'll be a short leash, because we got to remember that the last time he was seen, he was crying, saying, "Trade me," because he dropped some passes the day before and then got put with second team to start out the day while being told, "You'll be running with the starters. We just wanted to see another guy," who eventually ended up being traded. So again, do I think he's that talented? Do I think he has potential? Yeah. But do I think he could do this at the next level? Probably not.
All right. Well, he was 4 for 1, or was it? What was it? 4 for 107 and a touch. So he had a good day.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely the number one receiver in that offense, in my opinion.
He's now the number one receiver in the USFL in terms of yards. So
I'm sure I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I'm hating it right now. I absolutely am.
Yeah, he's probably on his way to potentially making the all-USFL team. And, if the Stars make a run late in the postseason, in the playoffs and the championship, he might get some eyeballs on him in those games. But yeah, I think, it's tough, because it's like on the one hand, these guys are professional football players and they're in the top 1% of what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like they're incredible players that are all kind of right there. For whatever reason, they're not in NFL camp, and some guys that's talent, but a lot of guys it's a dumb decision here or there, or whatever it may be. But on the other hand, they're also not in the NFL, like you were saying, Evan. Like they're in this league for a reason, whatever that reason is, and so it's sometimes hard to know like how well will a guy translate, the success they've had maybe at the USFL to the NFL. Like if you look at Kavontae Turpin from last year, he was a guy that was really successful in the USFL, and that translated to the NFL, at least in the special teams, side of things. But there's other USFL guys that were, and XFL guys that were, dominant, and then went to the NFL and either got cut or maybe got some playing time. But like PJ Walker, was super dominant in the XFL the first go around, but when he started a couple games at Carolina, he was average. So there is obviously a difference in these leagues versus the league.
Luke, I think he won a Thursday night start for Carolina when they were 1-6. PJ Walker, though, he did win them a couple games though, and he won him a Thursday night Amazon Prime game. PJ Walker did though.
Yeah, no, PJ was definitely good and wasn't bad in the NFL. I definitely no disrespect to him. It's just he obviously wasn't dominant in the same way in the NFL that he was in the XFL, where he was like he threw 15 touchdowns in 5 games,
right?
And like only had I think 4 picks or something like that. And it's like
exactly, yeah,
that level of play. He wasn't able to replicate that level of play in the NFL.
Because I did watch him on a Thursday night Amazon stream game, and he did win him that game for the Panthers. Though that was without Michaels and Herb Street. So
for sure, yeah. But I think like what you're saying, Evan, like Coleman could be back in the NFL. Is he going to be successful to the degree that he has been in the USFL? Maybe, but also, that maybe not. I mean, it's certainly that's going to take. That's a different conversation when you're being guarded by Sauce Gardner versus some of the cornerbacks the Stallions have. Which again, no disrespect to them, but it's just a different situation.
Absolutely, and I know I'm kind of asking this question a little early, but does anybody feel like between both spring leagues that there's at least one guy that could really may not have a sustainable career in the league, but have that flash in the pan season?
Yes, I do. I think as these leagues grow and more people know about it, I think they're both showing that they want to be pure developmental leagues for this league, especially the USFL and the XFL. I think there will be guys that, like, my opinion is, I know Adam doesn't want to hear this because he's a Russell Wilson guy with Sean Payton and everything. I personally think Ben DiNucci, who played really well with Seattle, like I think he got that he made his mini camp tryout with Denver. Like, I don't think he's going there just to back up Russell Wilson. Like, I think Sean Payton's gonna give DiNucci like a good chance to compete with Russell Wilson for the starting job there at Denver, because you just don't know. I mean, it's possible.
I definitely can see that happening, but I would say it would be before week 8. If it was, or if he does start the season, I would be incredibly shocked. I think that, but I do think as far as it goes with the question, that to me would be the one guy I could think of right now.
Exactly, because Russell Wilson didn't. I know he's got a new coach and everything, but he did not show last year that he could be Denver's full starter for 17 games. He did not show that last year, and he's getting up there too.
Yeah. Speaking of Seattle, a guy that also comes to mind is Ja'Cour Pearson. I mean, that dude just was ridiculous, and obviously he had.
I thought you were going to say Josh Gordon.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean,
His
Gordon
play
Hayward.
definitely showed it, but I think the league's still concerned about his drug issues. But his play definitely earned him another contract. They're not worried about his play giving him another contract. It's the drug issues and everything.
Wait, are we
They're
talking about
still
Pearson
worried
or
about.
I jumped into
No,
Gordon.
Gordon.
Yeah.
But with Gordon, they
Pearson.
don't. With Gordon, from what I understand, they're not. Well, from the NFL, and I might be wrong here. You know what? I might not even. Let me do my research, and I'll open up the next week's episode with that one. I'm gonna take a book. I'm gonna take a page out of Luke's book.
Well, I was just going to say Pearson, I think, I mean, obviously they had a lot of weapons in Seattle, but Pearson was a guy that I saw was like just kind of doing some
He was
things.
the
out
number
there
one
on the field.
receiver, right?
Do what?
He had the most receptions, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, he was doing some things that I saw where I'm just like, you can't really teach that. You know what I mean? And so and I think sometimes it depends on the position, right? Because you could be a dominant defensive tackle at the USFL level, but the level of physicality and play in the trenches in the NFL, I mean, we're talking about a different ballgame, right? So I think it's hard to go from being super dominant at certain positions in these spring leagues and that translating to really standing out in not just an average way, but in a significant way at the NFL. But, receiver, special teams, those are some positions where I think if you're fast, you've got good hands, and you've got good technique, you don't necessarily have to be the biggest, strongest, most physical guy to be able for your game to translate. And so Pearson is a guy that, some of the things I saw him do, he reminded me kind of a Cavante Turpin, where he was just so quick and so creative with the ball in his hands and did so many, kind of explosive things that, I think that even against NFL secondaries, I think some of that could translate.
And you can't coach natural speed either,
Right.
too.
Absolutely. So before we go to the next game, I have a question because I've noticed the trend here with the four of us is that when it comes to the XFL and the USFL, we really watch the running backs. Does anybody think that there's a running back within one of these two leagues that can actually make a difference?
I think Mark Thompson got a chance.
I think Abram Smith for me.
I say Abram Smith and Mark Thompson. The thing about Mark, like I already talked about it with Mark Thompson, you're just, like I said, I don't care what level, spring league or NFL, you're never going to find a bell cow back at a guy of Mark Thompson's size that is so versatile at what he does that like what he could do in the USFL could translate into the NFL, and you're just like he could just do everything at that size is just, and he's that athletic is incredible. He's not just a bowling ball back at 6'4", 235. He's got athletic spin moves that he could catch out of the backfield in a spread offense too.
I also like watching Reggie Corbin run.
Yeah.
Dude looks like he's walking.
Too.
Dude looks like he's walking half the time, and he's that quick.
Yeah.
If you watch him in the backfield with the ball, it looks like he's walking. Like he is really just looking for a hole. And I don't know his burst speed and all that, but that's just something that catches my eye.
Yeah, running back is a tough spot because running backs in the NFL have become so disposable. Which I think that's good and bad for these guys. On the one hand, it's good because they might be willing to bring somebody in and give them a shot and let them be a part of a rotation in the backfield. But on the other hand, it's also kind of bad because these leagues will, they'll draft a running back 6th, 7th round and just kind of see, they throw them out there for a little bit, see if it works or not, sign a guy in free agency, So I could also see these leagues being like, rather than having maybe a guy that's a little bit older or been around for a few years, let's take a chance on a younger guy right out of college, that kind of thing. But I do think both Thompson and Smith are guys that you have to think get a look just for how dominant they were in these leagues. And I think like Jamie's saying with Thompson, he's got that like Derrick Henry build where he's just a tank and just so hard to bring down, but he's also so explosive and fast and has good hands and block. And seems like he can kind of do it all. So it's just like, I don't know if I'm an NFL
bigger
team,
than Derrick Henry.
Yeah, if you're an NFL team, why wouldn't you want that? And the thing is with Thompson,
that's funny. You guys are talking about Derrick Henry. You must have read my freaking mind because I just read a thing before we came online that Derrick Henry might be thinking about retirement.
There you go. Maybe the Titans should sign Houston then.
You know what else is
I don't
scary?
know.
Derrick Henry is a couple pounds bigger than Jim Brown in his playing days,
Hmm.
and I found this out after Jim Brown had passed.
Uh-huh.
So to think that two of the most dominant running backs of all time, and this guy is bigger, a little bit more elusive than one of the two. I'm not going to drop names on here because I'm a fan of both, but I just want to be able to see another position besides quarterback, receiver, and corner, and maybe a linebacker or a safety get a chance. Because my biggest fear is that we're going to fall in love with some of these offensive linemen because of their effort, because of the way they talk to the media, or the way they come on our shows. And then
what about Torzino or Alafrey? He had a huge game this week. You got to see him this week, Luke. He had 10 tackles, 7 solo tackles for the Stars. Torzino every week he's up there. Even though Trey Tart or Lee Jr. was the leading tackle for the Maulers this week with 6 and 5. Torzino wasn't up there this week. So
yeah, and I think also the Panthers defense. I mean, Frank Ginda and Breland Speaks are two guys too that have just been I mean, Breland Speaks is one of those guys where
Ginda had 11 tackles and 8 solo.
Yeah, I mean, Speaks reminds me of like a Corey Coleman type, where it's like he was drafted by the NFL, played a couple years in the NFL, like has that level of talent. It's just
already has a Super Bowl ring. Breland
Yeah.
Speaks. He won with the Chiefs and played with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and it's
Before
like he's been
Before he
dominant.
came
at
to the
USFL
spring
level.
league.
He's on pace, to have probably 10 sacks or more in the U.S. this season, this 10-game USFL season. So it's just like he's a guy that I could see being back in the NFL and getting some reps for sure. And I don't know. I mean, Ginda, he's been like Tozino. He's been all over the field, call kinds of tackles every week, lots of interceptions. I mean, kind of a do-it-all guy. So there's guys. I mean, these leagues have talent. There's no doubt about that. It's just a matter of finding the right opportunity in the NFL, getting that shot, and making the most of it. But
do you think having head coaches also help because they're able to talk to other coaches because they have that NFL experience?
I would think so. I mean, I think the coaches that the USFL has and the XFL too, to their credit, are very well known, well respected, well connected people. And so you got to think, professional football, it can't be, it's a small world, I'm sure. So, it's not that hard probably. Everybody's probably one, either directly knows each other or is one person removed. So it's not that hard for, I don't know, Andy Reid to get on the phone and call Mike Nolan and say, hey, like, we're looking at this Frank Ginda guy. Like, what do you think? Do you think he's got what it takes to play at the NFL level? And these USFL coaches have coached at the NFL level, so they know, what it takes and whether these guys got it or not. So I would think that's got to help.
All right, Evan had to step out for a minute. Are we ready to go to the showboats in New Jersey?
Let's do it.
Jamie.
All right, so this game is going to be interesting. This is a battle of the continued winning streak and the luck of big game Todd Haley and big game Cole Kelly. They were already coming into this game riding a 4-game winning streak at 4-3, while the New Jersey Generals have been unlucky this year, going from undefeated in close games last year to winless in close games. Would one streak finally end? Would the magic luck of the showboats would they finally steam out, or would the winless close games, would that finally luck run out, and would New Jersey finally win a close game? Let's get right into it, folks. Beginning in the first quarter, things looked good as Nick Skiba kicked a 56-yard field goal, and it was good to give New Jersey a 3-0 lead over Memphis.
Hold on, Jamie. I'm going to stop you right there because Memphis was driving and they fumbled on the inside the 10-yard line, if I recall, right?
Yeah, but I only do the scores. Remember, I don't do any of the key drives.
All right. I just wanted to tell people that on the first drive, Showboats did fumble.
Okay, so I'll do my
New
Chris
Jersey-
Berman one for that. So Memphis was driving on the first quarter, but it's a fumble as New Jersey recovers the kick. Thank you, Adam, for that. I'll do that then. Then anyway,
It's up to you. I was
okay.
I wrote it down as a key play because it was
All
early.
right, we got to redo this part then. Okay. So anyway, on Sunday, June 4th, this was a game that featured the luck of big game Todd Haley coaching the Memphis Grizzlies, led by his star quarterback, big game Cole Kelly, who reminds me of Josh Allen at 6'7", 250 pounds, and is a big boy playing quarterback. Anyway, meanwhile, on the other hand, you had a team that's been not so lucky this year, the New Jersey Generals and coach Mike Nolan, who last year were 9-1, but were undefeated in close games. But this year they have been winless in close games. So what would happen this Sunday? Would the luck run out for the Showboats? Would they steamroll down and finally lose a game? Or would New Jersey finally win a close game? Let's get into it. In the first quarter, Memphis would drive down into the old 10 line, but it's a fumble, and New Jersey recovers the fumble for Memphis. And then in the first quarter, we begin as field goal kicker Nick Skiba kicks a 56-yard field goal, and the kick is good. New Jersey leads the Memphis Showboats 3-0. Then Memphis would kick a field goal as Alex Kessman would make this first field goal of 6 on the day from 29 yards, and the field goal good. The game is tied at 3. Then Kessman would kick one this time from 37 yards, his second of the day. Memphis would lead 6-3. We go to the second quarter. Memphis would get a touchdown from Kenneth White, 1 yard. He rumbles, bumbles, and stumbles for 1 yard into the end zone. And the extra point by Kessman, bueno. That means good in Spanish, by the way. Memphis leads New Jersey 13-3. Then, right before the half, Skiba, 50-yard field goal is no bueno, meaning no good. And we go to halftime with Memphis up leading 13-3. Then in the third quarter, Memphis would kick a field goal, and Kessman's third field goal of the day is bueno. The kick is good. Memphis leads 16-3, 16-3. Then New Jersey, Dakota Prokop filling in for quarterback Steyer Kaida led it with a touchdown pass to Alonzo, not Alonzo Mourning of the NBA, but Alonzo Moore, not related to Sky Moore, the Kansas City Chiefs. Touchdown. New Jersey cuts the lead to 16-10. They would go for the three-point conversion, but no bueno. Then in the fourth quarter, Memphis, another field goal for Kessman. Kicking the field goal. Memphis leads 19-10. 19-10. Kessman would kick another field goal. 6 for 6 on the day. Memphis leads 22-10. And then touchdown pass from Puerto to Darius Thictas, saved lives. Victor, touchdown. Memphis leads 22-16. The three-point conversion fails. So then Memphis, Kessman, 6 for 6 on the day. The field goal is good. Memphis would win, hold on to lead, 25-16. The streak is alive. Memphis goes to 5-3 on the year. Memphis wins 25-16. New Jersey falls to 2-6 and are tied for dead last now with the Pittsburgh Maulers in the north. The streak is still on for Memphis. Big game Todd Haley and big game Cole Kelly. Keep it rolling, or should I say keep it colon.
Way to go, Chris Berman Jr. Before we get into the breakdown, I just had the question for the three of you guys. do you think this run is sustainable to the championship game for the Showboats, or do you think they're going to run into the perfect matchup?
Look, they're still in dead last in the division. I don't know if anyone's aware of this. They're not even in the playoffs yet. And they're the hottest. They're like one of the hottest teams in the league. I think that's awful, but that's how close this division is. 3 teams are 5-3, and then the Stallions are 6-2. It's unbelievable.
That brings
Jamie,
into question.
you have that look, but
I do have that look.
It's a Chris Berman Jr. thing.
It is a Chris Berman Jr. thing because Todd Haley finally gets it though. Even though they're in dead last right now, they're 5-3. He's saying, look at you guys, USFL. I got my own Josh Allen quarterback. I got Cole Kelly, 6'7", 250 pounds. Yes, his 40 time is only a 5.14. Now you're thinking that's only 0.06 seconds faster than Tom Brady, but at least he could run the RPO and he could run the option. Tom Brady ran a 5.2, but he couldn't run the option to save his life. So that means Cole Kelly, he's actually got game speed compared to Brady, and Cole Kelly can run an RPO like Josh Allen could at 6'7", 250.
I think the 4 of us got game speed compared to Tom Brady.
But we don't have 6 Super Bowl rings. That's the thing, though.
Only if, man. I mean, hey, I got 6 Super Bowl rings right now on Madden, but we ain't talking about that.
Ain't nobody got time.
Tom Brady has 7.
Just like Ariana Grande. He's got 7 rings like Ariana Grande. So does Nick Saban. Remember that. Get it? 7 rings. The song by Ariana Grande. 7 rings.
So I'll go ahead and pass it. I'll go ahead and pass it on to one of you guys. Luke, what's your thoughts on that?
Luke never answered your question about the Showboats.
Oh, fair enough, Luke.
Yeah, I think it's sustainable. I mean, it doesn't seem like a flash in the pan kind of thing to me. Now, the bad news for them is, they got their work cut out for them because they still got to win at least one for sure, maybe 2 games to be able to get in the playoffs, depending on how things shake out. And obviously, if they make it to the playoffs, then they're going to have to play whoever the other team in the South that makes the playoffs is, which is going to be a tough assignment. So if any of these teams that are in the South, it's not going to be an easy road to get to the championship. But the Showboats, I mean, their defense is playing out of their minds right now. Offensively, Derek Dillon has been a huge weapon for them. They've found something in the running game with Kareth White. Cole Kelly has been the answer for them at quarterback. So, I mean, I think they're legit. I'll put it this way. If I was a coach in the USFL for a team other than the Showboats, I would not want to have to play the Showboats right now, the way that they're playing.
We saw this in the XFL. This is a random question. I'm sorry. We saw this in the XFL this past season, and now we're seeing it in the USFL. Do you think they need to add more teams, or they need to change the playoff format to guarantee the fact that we have the 4 best teams?
That's a good question. And they asked Daryl Johnson about this the other day, who was the president of the USFL, and I think I have mixed feelings about it personally. I don't think there's an easy answer because I see both sides of it. On the one hand, like in the league, let's just take the USFL since we're in the USFL season. On the one hand, you feel bad for the teams that are in the South because only 2 of them can make the playoffs, but all 4 of them are really worthy of being in the postseason. On the other hand, these leagues, because they're so short, they're only 10 games, and you don't have like a big, I guess, kind of like preseason and stuff like that. Sometimes teams start off slow, but then they get hot late, and by the time you get into like mid-season form, end-of-season form, their record might not be great, but they might be actually getting to the point where they're really the best team in the league, and that's what we saw with the XFL. Like, the Renegades started off kind of rough, But once they got Perez in there and they got better and better and kind of got into mid-season form at the end of the season, they turned out to be the best team in the league and won the championship. And it's like it would have been a shame if they didn't have the opportunity to be a part of the postseason, even though they were one of the two best teams in the North. And again, ended up being the best team in the league and winning it all. So it's like, I don't know. I see both sides of it. You know, as long as they only have 8 teams, it's almost like you almost wonder if they could just have all 8. You know, I guess it only really makes sense in a year like this when every team in the USFL is kind of neck and neck. But this year, at least, it'd almost be nice if there was like an 8-team playoff. Like every team just automatically made the playoffs, and it was like the top seeded team overall played the lowest seeded team overall, and you just, you know, had 3 rounds to the playoffs as opposed to 2. But then that way everybody has a shot. But you know, then that kind of makes the regular season kind of pointless, I guess. So I don't know. I don't think there's an easy solution. I'm not sure. I see all sides of it, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Okay, so any players of the game before we jump to our final game?
I'm going with big game Cole Kelly as usual, and what's his name again? The receiver,
Derek Dillon.
Derek Dillon, Mr. 429, aka I was teammates with Justin Jefferson, and I ran a faster 40 time than him, even though he's with the Minnesota Vikings and I'm in the USFL, but still.
Yeah, I'd probably say Kareth White, their running back, Showboat's running back. He's really come on strong for them the last couple of weeks, and that's really, I think, helped their offense to be able to run the ball consistently, and had some big runs this past week. So that'd probably be my player of the game.
What's talking it?
I went with White. 23, 102, and
I'll go with Derek Dillon, White, and Big Game Cole Kelly. And Big Game Todd Haley for the coaching adjustments that he made.
Fair enough. I think we got a backdoor Pittsburgh fan over here in Jamie Malloy, man. We're gonna have to figure it out, buddy.
It's because of what Luke said about the bottom team, like the one team that he mentioned about the one team in the league that could get hot and is and is by midseason form that they struggle, but then they get into the playoffs like the Renegades. And I said that could be the Mullers this year. I said that when he made that comment. I said take care of Michigan this weekend. I wrote that as he said that. That's why.
Fair enough. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the last game. I'm going to go ahead and hand it back off to Chris Berman Jr. I like the way that he brings the energy into these final games. For those who are watching, don't forget to like and subscribe. For those who watch later, especially on our Twitter, please like, subscribe, share, and continue to show support. We love you guys out there. We greatly appreciate it. Chris Berman Jr., it's all yours.
We got one more game, right? We're doing one more game.
Right.
Right. Okay, so to wrap up this edition of Week 8 of a crazy USFL weekend this week, we had a surprising Michigan Panthers team last week who was coming in 2-4, but got a confidence win last week over the not so surging New Jersey Generals, and Josh Love, who is Adam's boy over here because he played for our Pittsburgh Maulers last year, surprised us with a win and got voted Offensive Player of the Week, and everybody was cheering for him, and I was too. Well, let's see. This week he had a chance to back that up this week with a win over the slippering, tumbling, bubbling, stumbling New Orleans Breakers, who started out hot and were 4-0. Then everybody was saying, yeah, this was the best team in the South. Then they kind of slipped on a 3-game winning streak, and now everybody's saying, oh, their offense is too predictable and blah, 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 blah. Well, this game is going to kind of surprise you. So, did the Panthers follow it up with a back-to-back winning streak? And did Josh Love earn that love again from the fans and an offensive player of the week? Or did the Breakers break their losing streak this week? Let's get right into it. So in the first quarter in the field goal, in the first quarter of the game, Cole Murphy from Syracuse kicked a 51-yard field goal, but the kick was no good. And we end the first quarter tied, goose egg. In the second quarter with the score still goose egg, West Hill, the Hills are alive, scores on a TD sneak. The extra point by Coughlin, not Tom Coughlin. The kick is good as New Orleans leads 7-0. Then we go to McKethel Thompson. New Orleans scores on a touchdown pass to Johnny Be Good Dixon. And that's a Chuck Berry reference there, by the way, on a touchdown pass, who Johnny Dixon would later get Offensive Player of the Week. Congratulations to him right there. And the extra point was good. New Orleans leads Michigan 14-0. Then Dixon would score on another touchdown pass from Bethel Thompson. Looks like New Orleans would be cruising 21-0. It's over, folks. It's over. Not so fast as reigning Offensive Player of the Week from Michigan quarterback Josh Love. Got to do with it, babe. Scores a touchdown pass to Marcus Ball. As the extra point from Murphy is good. New Orleans now, or Michigan now trails 21-7. Then the pass was picked off, leading to a Cole Murphy 19-yard field goal. Michigan now trails New Orleans 21-10. Michigan now has scored 10 unanswered points at the half. Anyway, we go to the third quarter, and then Josh Love throws a touchdown pass to Trey. All I do is Quinn, no matter what. And the extra point is now good, making this a 4-point game. But then Coughlin kicks a field goal to extend the lead to a 4-point game. Michigan is still on the comeback trail. Then in the fourth quarter, Cole Murphy makes a field goal. The kick is good, but Michigan makes a blunderous mistake as they call their final timeout with 11 minutes left. Oh, no. That means they can't stop the clock until the 2-minute warning. But what happens is on the last play of the game, Josh Love has a chance with 3 seconds left on a Hail Mary, but the pass is sails wide, and it's no good. New Orleans hangs on for the win, 24-10. New Orleans did it. They finally broke their losing streak. But it was another panic attack as New Orleans improves to 5-3, while Michigan falls to 3-5.
Great job, Chris Berman Jr. And now we're going to pass it on to Sports Talking It. We have some comments in the from YouTube here. So
I don't know who this guy is, but anyway. Anyway, I think Hills has fumbled the ball like I think the last 4 games, and Bethel Thompson's thrown an interception now in the last 6. But he looks like I took this game as the tale of 2 different quarters because the Breakers were definitely running away with it in the first, and then the 2 interceptions in the second half, or the end of the first half, and that turned into points, and then right out of the gun in the second quarter. I mean, oh my gosh! Sorry, thinking about this blue and purple jersey behind me. I don't know who this MBO Studios is. Evan, you know who that guy is?
no, I don't, but I like his taste.
Of course you would.
Then that Marcus Baugh touchdown, just like it just summed up the whole weekend. Missed tackles. There were so many missed tackles this week in this USFL. I mean, Mark Thompson should have been stopped twice, and instead he took him to the end zone because he's a big dude. Yeah, so But definitely Dixon, player of the game for me. Jay Adams also had 100 yards and 100 plus yards. So, yeah.
All right. Luke.
Yeah, this is like two teams that are both good but struggling, and two teams that very well could be in the playoffs, but they got to take care of business if they want to get there. Um, the Breakers were kind of due for a win, after several losses and starting off 4-0. The Panthers finally lose a road game after going undefeated on the road prior to this week. So both teams I felt like had flat. If you watch this game, I think it kind of encapsulated both of these teams' seasons. Like the Breakers started off by looking dominant, which is kind of the beginning of their season, but then they kind of let the Panthers claw their way back into it and ended up being a really close game that they barely won. The Panthers looked terrible at first, didn't really look like they should be out on the field, but then they put some nice offensive drives together, and Love looked like he has at times this year, and they looked like a solid team that might come back and win the game. So two teams that are good but are not consistent and not careful with the football, don't play, disciplined enough to be great, and they gotta clean that up if they really want to make a late push. But they're right there in it.
Did Bethel Thompson look better this week to both you guys? Did he
I thought
build more
so.
plays? Did he was understanding stuff? Because like the last couple weeks, I mean, obviously he's throwing the interceptions and it still continued, but there was a different outcome. So I don't know if that's good or bad.
I mean, he had, I think, 328 yards or something like that. So he threw the ball well, I
328,
thought.
2 touchdowns, and 2 picks.
Yeah. Yeah, the turnovers continue to be an issue, but that's always been an issue with his game. I thought he did a good job getting the ball to his playmakers. Like Adams and Dixon are two of the best receivers. You could make an argument that they're maybe potentially the best receiving tandem in the USFL. But I don't know that they've really been fully utilized this year at all times. He's thrown the ball a lot to his tight end, which is fine, and he's got a good tight end, but I don't feel like they've gotten the ball to Adams and Dixon enough. And I felt like this week he did a better job finding them, getting the ball in their hands, and letting them kind of do what they do. So I thought he had a good game. Obviously, he's a great quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in this league. He's just got to be, careful with the football and play the way he's capable of for them to have success.
Jamie, you look like you're ready to go.
Yeah, I agree with what Luke says. He is one of the better quarterbacks in the league. But like I said, I think this was a tale of two halves. Like he got back to being the good McClyde Bethel Thompson in the first half, which he threw for 328 yards and all the touchdowns. But then the bad McCuthell Thompson showed with the 2 interceptions and the turnovers that led Michigan to come back into the game. But credit Michigan for not quitting and fighting their way back into the game. But this also leads to a point that the Maulers are playing Michigan next week, and we don't know which Michigan is going to show up. And I hope Coach Horton saw on film that we saw both sides of Michigan and that we're going to be ready to go this Saturday for the Maulers.
Luke, who do you guys play this weekend?
We got the Gamblers. Big game.
You think
I'll be right back, guys.
you'll stop Thompson?
I think it's going to be tough, but we're going to have to. I don't think you can stop him. It's more like, can we contain him?
He's kind of like the bus.
Yeah.
You have to like really tackle that dude. A couple guys. But did you notice that a lot this weekend? A lot of missed tackles.
Yeah. I think I don't know if it's the wear and tear, if it's just guys getting sloppy with things. If it was the heat, you know, I mean, some of the games were played in really, really hot conditions. I don't know if it was like kind of, you know, fatigue sort of thing or what, but definitely, you know, definitely teams got to clean some stuff up going into the home stretch.
So why are the Showboats in last place still? A division record? Is that why?
Let me take a look. I thought last time I checked they were in second.
When I just looked on the USFL network before the show, it had them in fifth or fourth.
Yeah, so at least according to the USFL website, the Showboats are in second right now.
That's where I just looked. It had the Stallions, then Houston, then New Orleans, then the Boats.
You can't see it. If I put my phone in front of the camera, it just goes to Protective Stadium. So yeah, on the USFL website, they got the Stallions, Showboats, Breakers, then Gamblers in last.
Okay, well, maybe we're looking at two different sites. I'm not sure.
The USFL.com.
Not sure. That's where I was.
Which one would you
was
say
on
is
the-
more trustworthy, Luke?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter too much because right now all three of those teams have the same record. So, you know, it's just a matter of tiebreakers, but the tiebreakers, you know, so yeah, so right now I think it's like if you go to the USFL website, usfl.com, the official standings are Stallions 1 and then Showboats 2, Breakers 3, Gamblers 4. Breakers have a head-to-head tiebreaker against the Gamblers because they beat them in their first matchup. The Showboats have the tiebreaker over the Breakers because they beat them in their one game. And then the Showboats are 1-1 with the Gamblers. So they're kind of tied head-to-head. So that puts the Showboats over the Breakers and the Breakers over the Gamblers. But they still have to play each other.
But if the playoffs were to be today, it would be the Stallions and the Gamblers, right?
Stallions and the
That'd be
Showboats.
Stallions and Showboats.
Stallions and the Showboats.
Yeah.
So they would go by the USFL.com. All the national TV, like Fox and NBC, would go by that, right?
Yeah. So if you go to foxsports.com, they put out an article today. If you go to like USFL and then go to news, and they have, you know, current playoff matchups if the postseason started today.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of see it on my phone there, I guess, sort of. But it has South 1 and 2, Birmingham versus Memphis. Birmingham would get in due to a 2-1 record versus New Orleans and Houston. So, yeah. So, but Memphis still has to play Birmingham and New Orleans, and New Orleans still has to play Memphis and Houston. So
that would be to me that would be the toughest. That would be the toughest matchup because, like I said, like they're hot, and plus, like your defense isn't used to going up against Cole Kelly, who's 6'7", 250 pounds. You haven't faced a tall quarterback like that, you know.
Yeah.
Now, Luke, do you get to travel and go on this weekend, or are you watching from home?
I think I'm gonna watch from home. The Stallions play in Memphis the next 2 weeks, and I thought about going up for both of them, but I'm right now I'm leaning towards waiting until week 10 because this week is a huge game, but week 10 will probably be a bigger game because it'll probably determine either if we're going to get in the playoffs if we lose this week, or if we win this week, it could determine if we're going to get the home field advantage in the playoffs or not. So, and week 10 we play Memphis, and Memphis will have, you know, a much bigger kind of home crowd. So I'm leaning towards just going up week 10.
Now, do you get to sit in the press box, or will you have to sit?
I might go for both. We'll see.
Will you get to sit in the press box, or will you have to sit in the stands?
I can kind of do either one. I can sit in the press box, you know, with the being part of the Pro Football Newsroom. I've got the credentials to do that. But sometimes, especially at a new stadium like that I haven't been to a game, it's kind of fun to sit in the stands and kind of, you know, feel the energy of the crowd, kind of get a feel for what the experience is like. You know, this is the first season the USFL has been in Memphis, so I might be up in the box some, but I also would like to kind of walk around and kind of.
If you wanted to, could you do half and half?
Yeah, that's no issue.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So did we get the Jamie on the Jumbotron or no? Didn't we get the edit?
Not yet. I still got to get the clip, so I'm gonna have to download the YouTube video or something, and then kind of clip it and see if I can get the clip we need.
Yeah, everyone was saying he was having trouble, so that's why I didn't know if you took it or not.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll get a Birmingham home playoff game, and hopefully, we can get them up there for that.
There we go. So you guys have a scenario this weekend: win and everyone else loses, which it's not going to happen, but you guys could at least wrap up a playoff spot this weekend, right?
So if we win, we're guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, regardless of what else happens. So all we have to do is win one more, and we'll be in it.
Okay. Emergencies come up from Evan.
Oh, hope it's okay.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm sure if Evan took a little breather. I thought he was coming back, but sometimes family comes first.
No doubt.
So, I don't know why we're on this screen. Let's go back to regular screen. There we go.
I like this because now we've got the Stallions and Showboats on either side of me. It's like we're setting it up for that playoff game, maybe.
See, look, beautiful, beautiful. Anyway, Luke, how people get a hold of you?
You can find me at Twitter. My handle is on my my video there, so at Luke Miller PFN. You can see my articles also at usflnewsroom.com. I've got an article coming out tomorrow morning, actually, about the Stallions playoff kind of picture and what it's going to take for them to get into the playoffs and what it's going to take for them to get to be able to play at home in Birmingham if they do make the playoffs. And so if you're interested in that, you should be dropping tomorrow morning. Keep an eye out for that. But that's going to be at usflnewsroom.com, and I'll share it on my Twitter as well.
All right. Can you tag us?
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet. I don't know if Evan's popping back in or not. He might be. I'm not sure. Jamie.
All right, so you can find me on Twitter on Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dog Tags. That's my first Twitter account, and DefiantTakesFootball.com. You can also find me on my second Twitter account at BillsChat1 at Yahoo.com at Bills Mafia Chat. I also write for Defiant Takes Football, and you can find my sports stories there on the Buffalo Bills, Syracuse Orange, and spring football, which is a USFL and XFL. Thank you.
You can find me at Brogdon Evan on Twitter. That's my main account where I just talk about anything and everything. If you want to talk about something specifically on the podcast, you can reach me at Talking Sports by the Lake or XFL 2023. You can also find me at Prince to a King on TikTok to reach out for edits, for intros, exits, anything like that. If you ever need anything, and I'll pass it on to Sports Talking It.
Find me at Sports Talking It, the YouTube, Driving to the Top, at Hammer Time Pit. Shit, I said I own a whole lot, like I was a head coach or something. Anyway, Driving to the Top Productions on Twitter as well. And I'm thankful for everyone that showed up and for the guests that popped on. I love that this is becoming a regular thing. Hopefully it can continue. Are we doing it again next Tuesday, boys?
I'm free. I'm
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, let's plan on it.
All right. Evan, you want to close it out or?
So don't forget to like and subscribe here at Driving to the Top Productions, where you can find multiple versions of content on the NFL, XFL, USFL, the NHL, and the MLB through multiple content creators and podcasters here on the Driving to the Top Productions YouTube page. Signing out, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday at 9:30. Peace.
Yeah, guys.